On today's show, are the Celtics really going to defend Luka Doncic one-on-one? That's your plan? John Karalis of Locked On Celtics explains on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks.
Mavericks, NBA champions. Bang! It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome. You're locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and your best friend covering the Dallas Mavericks on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show, making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. Best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day on any podcast platform. Like the video on YouTube, leave a 5-star review, like, comment, and comment anything below. Let me know in the comment section what questions you have about the Boston Celtics so I can ask John Karalis. And then go over to Locked On Celtics and just comment, Go Mavs. Just a simple Go Mavs. That's all we need. Don't need anything flowery. Go Mavs. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. They help you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And now let's hear from John Karalis of Locked On Celtics, the host of Locked On Celtics, great Boston reporter and all that. Talking about them, I asked him questions about the Celtics. Let's get into it. All right, I'm here, Nick Angstadt, host of Locked On Mavericks, with John Karalis, host of Locked On Celtics. John, besides the team in yellow and purple that you don't like to talk about, these are the two biggest shows on Locked On NBA, and we meet here in the finals now. The two teams left. I'm excited about this. This is just old hat for you at this point, though.
It's a lot of fun, man. You know, I'm used to podcasting about games into June, late May. So, welcome aboard. Welcome aboard.
I had to work on my conditioning. I had to work on my vocal exercises to make sure that I could still podcast into June.
Are you going to need a sub halfway through the second segment?
I may. I also want to say that I wore the green Mavs hat today for all the Celtics fans.
Yeah, no, that was nice. I can't wear green because I have a green screen behind me. And if I do that, it looks like I have no head. So, yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, this is the one thing that we can agree on is green, because the Mavs fans love the Mavs green, and Celtics, that's all you guys do. So
it's a nice hue. I will give it to you. It's a nice hue.
All right, today we're getting into questions about the Boston Celtics. I've got some questions about what the Celtics do, and so we're gonna ask all that in the next episode. We'll do two of these. The next one, John will ask me questions about the Mavericks, and so we'll learn all about that. And in so we'll decide who's gonna win.
That's it. That's right.
Basically what we're going to do.
My first one will be the Celtics. Okay, anyway.
Oh, my first one, and why I think it'll be the Mavericks. So you did an episode recently that I thought was really good about how the Celtics have to defend and guard Luka. The answer that you came up with is exactly what the Thunder did. The Thunder played Luka. They played Luka one-on-one. They didn't go over the extra traps, the doubles, and things like that. They didn't even blitz that much, but they did sometimes. And then everybody else stay at home and try to close off the passing lanes. The Clippers would do this early in Luka's playoff career and all that. Mm-hmm. My question is, do you stand by that? You still feel good about letting Luka try and beat you one-on-one?
Yes, because it's still about the other guys. And look, you beat the Thunder. But I think the Boston Celtics defense is better and more versatile. And I think it's more capable of shutting down the other guys. So that's why I said it this way. I know that Luka is going to do what he does. I understand what he's capable of. What Luka wants to do is make everybody around him better. And I can't have that. So what choice do you have? There aren't many people. One of the Mavs, one of the many Mavs commenters who have flooded the Locked On Celtics YouTube page is
squad.
Yeah. So, and I'm gonna have you to explain the Raccoon Squad stuff to my folks in a second. But somebody was like, "Oh, real creative. We haven't heard this before." It was like 5.
There's only so many ways. There's only so many ways.
Right? There's only 5. So you can blitz him, and I'll tell you what, they're going to do all of it. Yeah. They are going to do all of it. It depends on when and where. You have to mix. You can't just play him one-on-one, right? You do that mostly. And if you run a pick and roll, you got to run the drop coverage and lure him into, if he hits 60% of his 2-pointers, then so be it. So be it. The Celtics just played a team in the Pacers that hit 60% of their 2-pointers. You got to live with something. What I can't live with is Luka 8, 9, 10 assists, because Luka with 35 and 9 assists. Well, those 9 assists, a lot of them tend to be 3-pointers, and the other ones are lobs. So they're all very high efficiency shots. So that 35 that he scored is really like 60 or so, or 50 or so. And so that's where I get into, like, if he's accounting for 50 to 60 points of the offense, well, then Kyrie, if you're doing this and you're not worried about Kyrie, then Kyrie comes in and he accounts for another 20, 25 points of the offense. You're up to 85. Now all you need is 25 points from somebody else, and you're up to 110. You averaged 111 against the Timberwolves. And so, like, that's enough for you to win if you can maintain the defense. I need Luka to account for less than that. I need Luka and Kyrie to combine for like 50 points and maybe a few assists. I need them to account for less. And that's where the Celtics, my confidence level is in the Celtics putting up points. And I need to figure out a way for the Mavs to
score less points.
You know what I mean? But less than 110. Like 100 to 105. That to me is the magic number.
Stop him a couple times. One of my things about how the Celtics will guard Luka is in the March 1st matchup, at least, and in the matchups in the regular season, they allowed any switch. And if they're going to allow any switch, my thing is, does Luka all of a sudden start playing some guys into submission to where you go, hey, I don't know if we can play Peyton Pritchard if Luka is on the court. I don't know if we can play, like Al Horford's looking pretty old and he's running past him every time. I mean, I'm curious if that happens, then all of a sudden they start taking things away, because that started to happen to the Thunder a little bit.
So the number one thing that I talked to Joe Mazzulla about was not adjusting to the result. And that's a very difficult thing to do. You have to adjust to what's deviating from the game plan versus following the game plan and them still hitting shots anyway. So part of the game plan and part of the plan to defend Luka Doncic to me is defending with your offense. I'm saying that this is going to be my favorite phrase over the next 2 weeks. Defend Luka with your offense by putting him in every action, by forcing him to defend. And either you're going to you can say, hey, well, he is defending well. Okay, great. Make him work really hard. And then maybe he fades a little bit, because if you're single covering him and you're making him work really hard on defense, that's a hell of a workload for playoff minutes, 43, 44 playoff minutes, somewhere in that low 40 minutes range. By the fourth quarter, that anybody's going to get tired. So it's not a shot at Luka. It's just, if you're working that hard on both ends of the floor, you're going to fade. And that's what I hope for anyway. So part of my plan is the both end thing. So if you are putting him in all the actions, and if he is working hard to defend, then you deal with it. If he's not working hard to defend and he's blowing by you, then great. Now you're drawing help and you're kicking and you're shooting. And there's going to be a ton of 3-pointers and all of that stuff. And so be it. Like, you're just going to score a bunch of points and then you deal with him on the other end. But I'm not going to worry about if they are single covering him the majority of the time. I'm not going to worry about him hitting tough shots. I'm also going to try not to feed him Peyton Pritchard. I'm going to try not to do that.
They did in that last game. They fed him right away. And I was like, oh man, this may not go well for you.
But like, if you're drawing him into tough twos, and it's not 3-pointers and it's not kickouts to corner threes for other guys, if you're just drawing him into tough twos and he's not racking up assists, then I will live with it. I will live with it and fall into the concept of, it's a 48-minute game. And as long as you are ahead when that 48th minute elapses versus the first 47 minutes and 59 seconds, all that matters is that final second. So deal with it for however long you have to deal with it, and then figure out a way to make your run, and hopefully he gets tired, or hopefully something happens, or that fatigue leads to a mistake and maybe a few turnovers in the fourth quarter that are uncharacteristic that you can capitalize on. That's the thing. And you know what? The other part of that, living with it is it's a 7-game series. So if the plan doesn't work in a couple of games, it's still okay if you look at the numbers. If he's outperforming the expected shot, points per shot, you deal with it and you say it's a 7-game series. Can he do it 4 out of 7 times? You got to figure it out. So that's where I'm like leaning on. It's a long-term play, and it's just, I feel like the Celtics have enough horses to pull it out in the end.
The Mavs are the ones with the horses. I just want you to know that's like
that's the thing. That's
the
their thing.
Champ is the I don't think this is a ridiculous plan. I mean, the coach of the year in the NBA came up with like this is the plan that the Thunder uses. So if anybody's in the comments going, "Oh, what a ridiculous, stupid thing," like there are no true answers against Luka. He has the most answers of any offensive player in the NBA, and so to try that, like I think that's an admirable reason, and I think that there are so many other worse ways that you could try to defend Luka.
It's not stopping Luka. It's, can you have him make 2 or 3 fewer assists and hit 2 or 3 fewer buckets? That's 8 to 9 points that are going away via assists, or I would say 6 to 9 points are going away via assists, and like 6 points going away via scoring. If you could just combine that 12 points, just take 12 points away. That right there, boom, you're done. You win. Like, and it's just 2 buckets, 2 assists. That's it. That's 8 points. I'll take the 8 points away. I'll take it.
Coming up, let's get into. I've got a question about Kyrie. You said something about Kyrie yesterday that I found fascinating about the Kyrie and Boston Celtics relationship. We'll talk about that and more coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. We know that if you're a small business owner or if you are a hiring manager, you don't have time to sift through all the different resumes that you get. There's so many people trying to find jobs right now. You know that you want to find exactly the right qualified candidates. You know that you got to find somebody that fits your culture, that fits everything that you want. So LinkedIn helps you do that in a more efficient and easier way. Hiring is so easy when you have that many qualified candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. 86%, 24 hours. That's not a long time. You have that time. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions, they will apply.
My first shot, my first make.
Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with me on Locked On Mavs, Locked On Celtics, the crossover, the NBA Finals crossover. Feels good to say that on the podcast. Asking questions about the Boston Celtics. We talked about defending Luka, guarding Luka, John's plan to defend Luka and to fail miserably. Let's talk about Kyrie. Let's talk about Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
Explain this is going to be a review for a lot of Celtics fans, and this is what you feel internally as Celtics fans probably. You're going to explain to me the feeling of Kyrie Irving, explain the relationship with Kyrie Irving and why it is where it is right now, because I went back and watched that March 1st game. He got booed every time he touched the ball.
Yeah.
Every single time.
It's still going to be that way. Look,
yes.
I understand, like Boston fans, there's a lingering animosity because he said he was going to sign here. And
2 children.
Yeah. He was like, and I was there. I was there there was a big fan event where like it was at the TD Garden. It was an open practice. And he sat there on a director's chair and he's like, I'll come back if you'll have me. And the whole place, whoa.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, damn. Like, all right. And that was it. He had everybody hooked. He made a commercial that said, something like, my dad's the reason why I wear number 11. I want to be the reason why no one else does. And like, it's him. And like, everything was
it's a
great.
Good line, though.
Oh man, it was so
it's a good line, to be fair.
It was a great line, and then it just fell apart. And for his own personal reasons, he says it was because I think it was his grandfather that died, which is fine. Like as a free agent, personally, I'm like, whatever, you can make your decision, but fans are like pissed. And that's what it is. And once you become a sports villain somewhere, you remain a sports villain, even though
sure.
I think Like, it's done. It's done. Like, his history between leaving Boston and getting to Dallas tells us that it was never going to go well. Like, congratulations to Dallas for making it work. Like, that's amazing to me that worked out. A lot of people were wrong about that. Count me in the pile. That's fine. But nothing about between Boston and Dallas told me like that was going to work out if he stayed. That was probably going to go poorly either way.
It's just like Rajon Rondo. I mean, he's never welcome back in anything that involves the Dallas Mavericks ever again.
Sure.
Like, it just never will. And so, I understand that. Another thing is Porzingis. So the Kyrie storyline is definitely one that's going to be brought up a lot. Porzingis' storyline. What does he bring to the team? And if he doesn't play, let's say game one, or let's say he's just coming back, what does he do for Boston, or what do they do without him, basically? Like, what does he bring? What does he take away if he's not there?
So what he brings is just a great outlet on offense. And that's super, super important. And rim protection on defense. I guess we should start with the defense, because that's the most important part. Because Luka's going to get to the rim. Kyrie's going to get to the rim. And getting to the rim is the thing that blows up all the opposing defenses, right? It's getting into the paint, getting to the rim, and the kickouts, and generating high efficiency offense by getting past that first line of defense. So instead of like Al is great, but he's a little bit slower, and it's going to be tougher for him, and not just tougher for him, but when he starts, that means Luke Cornett is coming in behind him, or maybe Xavier Tillman, or maybe O'Shea Brissett, which would not be a great scenario. So Porzingis, at the very least, gives you a rim protector that you can just count on. He's a huge dude, long arms. He just makes things difficult no matter what. And secondly,
agree with that.
Yeah, he
does make things difficult.
He makes it so Al Horford is the backup and not Luke Cornett and not Xavier Tillman, which is a big deal. So you can get through 48 center minutes just by playing 24 and 24 minutes of those two guys, and that'll be good. And you hope that it can be more, and maybe you go double big sometimes in case you need it, depending on Dallas's alignment. If Porzingis is if he has his cardio up, and offensively, like I said, the outlet, he's Jayson Tatum's and Jaylen Brown's number one assist target on the season. They both hit him more than anybody. And that's like pick and rolls. You blitz him, you blitz one of those two guys, you just dump it off to him. You can hit him in the post. They have multiple actions to get him high posts where he has thrived this year. And so that's a big deal, because I think some of the plan is going to be to maybe throw to, especially at Jaylen, because he has a more questionable handle. So you might want to test that. And if he can throw that like little hook pass up to Porzingis to get himself out of trouble, that's a big, big deal, because if you do throw to him and he hits Porzingis, then you're in rotation. And then if you turn your head, he can make it a give and go and cut back door on you. And Porzingis has done really, really well finding Jaylen Brown. So him as an offensive outlet, whether it's popping all the way out to the 3-point line, or whether it's at the nail, or somewhere in the middle of the paint, has been very, very important for the just general flow of the offense.
He's really turned into like an overqualified role player at this point, which is a lot of what the Celtics players who were stars elsewhere came and now have become. But like his on-off numbers, there's not a big difference. There's like a 2-point difference between when he's on and when he's off the court. I mean, he is not making. It doesn't seem like he's making a huge difference, but it's a depth piece, like you said before. The Celtics were actually better record-wise when he didn't play in the regular season than when he did play. They're 21-4 when he didn't play, 43-14 when he did play. So yeah, it's interesting to see Porzingis in this role now, where when he was in Dallas, he thought that he was better than Luka and thought that he should be the number one and that Luka should be the number two. I mean, up until the very end of it. And so it's interesting to see that piece. I'm interested to see if he plays. I'm interested to see if he plays, because in Dallas, one of his big things that he would just always say over and over again is how much of a rhythm player he was, and how much of a, he needed to get his shots in certain moments because he needed to get rhythm. And Carlisle changed Luka's whole like minutes structure and rotation to give Porzingis more time. How has he been coming back from injury? Because he's done that several times. He's only played 7 games in a row twice this season. How has he been in the first couple games coming back from injury?
Yeah, he's been fine. Like, it's funny. I hear you talk about it. I listen to your show, and I hear you talk about Porzingis. Like, yeah, I've been paying attention to you, my friend. So it's like you're talking about a different guy, and it's like if I were talking about Kyrie in Boston, comparing, it could be a totally different guy. It's the different circumstances, but also not that different, right? Like, I think the thing with Porzingis, so he went from New York to Dallas. So he was the guy, and he was like the next big thing, the unicorn in New York. And then he goes to Dallas. It's like, okay, change your scenery, but I'm still that guy. And then he goes to Washington, and it's like, oh God, there is nothing here. This is barren wasteland. And
fan of the DMV.
He has to come, like, he had to come to Jesus moment. And credit to him for doing that, right? Like, and the same with Kyrie.
Playing with Kyle Kuzma will do that to you.
That's right. That's right. If you're sitting there playing with Kyle Kuzma and you're sitting like, oh my God, what am I doing? There's like 40 people at these games. This arena is one of the worst arenas
their courtside seats are all tables where people can come and like have dinner and they're not paying attention to the game.
Just brutal. Like, I hate that arena. But my wife is from Washington originally, so we always want to go. So I'm always at that place.
He said we want to go.
That's right. We want to go.
Yeah, we want to go.
So I'm like, all right, I'll make it into a business trip and we go. So but going there and playing there, there's like, you go one of two ways. You either double down and being like, now I'm in Washington, I am going to be the absolute takeover guy. Or it's like, okay, what got me here? Why am I in this situation? What the hell happened to me? And when Boston comes calling and says, hey, look, here's your situation. You don't have to be the number one guy. We're not bringing you in to be the number one guy. You're playing with Tatum and Brown. Like, okay, I think that snapped things into place. And so rhythm guy, like, no, I don't think he's a rhythm guy anymore. He's learned to just get his shots when he gets them. Sometimes he gets 7, sometimes he gets 17. And coming back from injury, the Celtics have been so cautious, even with this one. I think he probably could have come back sooner, but they've been so cautious with him that he's spent. Yeah, that's right. They didn't need him, right? Because you have White and Holiday and Horford, you can get by just fine. But he's been great. Like, he's been great, and I expect him, if he comes in, like, maybe a little bit of rust, getting used to the speed of things, and maybe his shot's going to be a little bit off, but he dials it in pretty quickly.
The wild thing about him is that he will play in an NBA Finals game before he's played in a conference finals game. So, like, Derek Lively has played more playoff games than Porzingis has already.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
That is
Porzingis only plays the first and fourth rounds. That's
you know what? That's he only plays the first and fourth games of runs too. Coming up, let's talk about the Boston Celtics superpower. It's their 3-point shooting, and the Mavs have their work cut out for them, trying to limit, in the same way that the Celtics want to limit Luka, the Mavs have to limit the Celtics 3-point shooting. We'll talk about how they could possibly do that coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, patience, the formula for winning championships. Celtics know about that. Mavs do too. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle, level it up to peak performance. Things like superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts to choose from for your ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you need and what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, you know that your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Mutual friend Jake Madison of Locked On Pelicans, hosts Locked On NBA with John Karalis, uses this all the time. And he showed me the car that he's working on when I went and visited him in New Orleans. And he gets his parts from eBay Motors. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, John, we're talking about the Boston Celtics, the storied franchise up there in New England in the Northeast.
Said with such sarcasm.
Just a little zest on there. The Boston Celtics superpower is their three-point shooting. They've been absolutely incredible shooting the three. Go back to that March 1st game that we talked about, which is kind of a rare game where both teams had all their players available. Like Porzingis played that game. Mm-hmm. You had the Mavs with Gafford and PJ, but the Mavs at least look so different from that game to now. But in that game, the Celtics hit 21 threes. The Mavs only hit 9, and that was kind of the game. Like, boom, it just got completely taken away from them. The Celtics were 38-1 when they shot over 39% from three this season, 6-11 when they shot under 32% from three. Do the Celtics live and die by the three? Because that's the thing we used to talk about with the Mavs when it was, Luka and just a bunch of dudes before they actually had centers and guys like that. Do they live and die by the three?
I mean, no more so than everybody else. I mean, I can't imagine that there are a lot of teams whose records are good when they shoot less than 32% from three. Like, I don't know what the rest of the league is. What's Dallas's?
The Mavs beat teams when they had multiple games against the Timberwolves, the Thunder, where they shot like 26% from three. They beat the Nuggets in the regular season. They shot low. I mean, they have broken out of the live and die by the three, and my cardiac arrest has thanked them for it, because man.
But yes, the short answer is 3-point attempts are very important to the Celtics. But Mazzulla has been adamant that there's no edict about you must shoot this many 3-pointers. It's you have to take the best shots available.
Yeah.
And the math tells you that you get to the rim first, but if you get to the rim and you're contested, the efficiency of a contested layup drops below the efficiency of an open corner three. So you do not want to just take layups or get to the rim against a contest. When you get there, you want to kick it, because that is a higher efficiency shot. It's a higher percentage shot. And so that's number one. So the Celtics generate the corner three, and then they're just very good at attacking the rotations, attacking the closeouts. And it just results in a lot of threes. They don't take a ton of mid-range, although they are more willing in the playoffs to do so. Jaylen Brown especially. Jaylen is kind of becoming a mid-range master, not to the level of a Kevin Durant yet, not to the level of a Chris Paul or anybody like that, but at a level where it's at a high enough rate where you can say, okay, yeah, Jaylen in the mid-range, we can live with that. That's a good shot. But yeah, I expect them in this series to take between 40 and even 53 pointers a game. I said on my podcast, I wouldn't be surprised if this series goes 7, that there could be 3 or 4 games where Boston hits 50 or shoots 50 3-pointers, just because I think the way you attack that Dallas defense is if you're putting Kyrie and Luka at the point of attack and you're getting by them, you're forcing the help because you're playing into Dallas's desire to protect the rim. And if your bigs are there to stop the rim, stop the restricted area stuff, then that opens up the kickouts. And even if you say, hey, well, Lively is athletic enough to get out to that corner, well, then the swing is to a good 3-point shooter. And if you X out and get to that person, then the second swing is to a good 3-point shooter. And if you close out to that guy and he drives, then the kick to the other corner is to a good 3-point shooter. That's the thing with the Celtics. Everybody is capable. Tatum and Brown are capable. Tatum needs to get the 3-point shooting to, it'd be nice if one of these series he can actually have a good 3-point shooting series. Because if Tatum comes down and hits his first 2 3-pointers of the game, forget it. Chalk it up. It's going to be a 30+ point game. Forget it.
It's the same exact thing with Luka. The same thing. That's exactly what happened in Game 5 against the Timberwolves. He hit his first 2 threes, and you go, it's done. It's over.
That's it. Forget it. Because now you're overreacting to the best player on the other team hitting those shots. And for now, everyone's going to get these open shots. I think this could be a really big Holiday and White series, just because those kicks are going to be to those guys. They're going to have plenty of open shots. We could see 15 corner 3-pointers, and those guys could be hitting a ton of them. If the Celtics are getting a lot of corner threes, that's going to be really tough for the Mavs to keep up. That's going to be very difficult.
Yeah, I don't think they'll be able to score with them if they just allow them to get those open corner threes every single time. I mean, Drew Holiday's shooting 1,000% on those this season. What the Mavs did against the Thunder, and I keep comparing them to them because they're the other team that was top 5 in offense and defense that the Mavs played, and they played a similar kind of style. They make a ton of threes. They don't take as many as Boston, but they were one of the best. They were the best 3-point percentage shooting team in the regular season. The Mavs ran them off the line. Like, they made it a point. Like, after game 1, where the Thunder just made a bunch of threes on them, same thing they did with the Clippers too. They ran them off the 3-point line and then just ushered them into either the help, like you said, or SGA just had to hit a million mid-range, like tough contested mid-range shots where it's just him versus PJ, him versus Derrick Jones Jr. over and over again. And like, I think the Mavs would be okay if you're doing that to Drew Holiday and Derek White. Like, guys, take as many tough mid-range shots over and over again as you want. But if the Mavs are successful in running them off the 3-point line, where they're not getting 50 3-point attempts, what happens then?
This is where I think the early attack is super important, because you can't fall into the habit of starting your attack with 12, 13 seconds on the shot clock. Celtics have to play at a good pace, have to play at a faster pace, because they're going to run you off the line. Sure. So do it again. Run another action, get into the paint again, and force them to run you off the line again. And then if they do, drive it and see. Is eventually, if you get 2-3 cracks at a drive and kick, either the drive is going to finally work because Lively is all over the place, Gafford is all over the place, and they might be able to get from point A to point B, fine. Maybe they get back to point A again. But back and forth, that's going to be a lot to ask. And again, maybe they do it in the first quarter. Keep at it. Are they going to do it in the second quarter? Are they going to do it in the third quarter? That's going to be the thing. The Boston Celtics offense has to just wear the Dallas Mavericks down. So I'm not worried. Like, you can sit there in the first half and Boston could be down in game 1 in the first half doing all this stuff, and people will be like, "Oh, John, it's not working." Like, just wait, because you got to come out. They got to do it again in the third and the fourth. So my answer to that is get the ball up over half court with 18 on the clock, run your offense, get into the paint, drive and kick or whatever, and force them. If they run you off the line, don't just settle for the mid-ranger just yet, because the mid-range shot is always going to be there. They are going to give that up anytime you want. So you don't have to. It's not like when they say early offense, you come down and if they dip below the 3-point line, you take that because you're never going to get a 3-point look like that clean against that defense. Fine, I get that. But a mid-range shot is always going to be there anytime you want it. So don't just take it with 12 on the shot clock. With 12 just drive it and put that pressure on them. Drive it, and if you have to do that little dribble down the baseline, kick it. Or like, that's when cutters start to come into play, because when guys are in rotation and you drive again, then somebody cutting because somebody's going to be lost. Like, that's where you take advantage of a defense. So my answer is keep at it, start early, play with good pace, and just keep attacking over and over again.
My question was, if the Celtics can't create those threes, what happens? You said try again. That's right. That's your answer. Right. Try again. Like start it over and try to get another. Because I think that the Mavs also have struggled with the teams, and like the Celtics, when they struggle against the Celtics, the Celtics made the Mavs chase the ball, and like they made them enough passes that the Mavs rotating defense couldn't catch up with where the ball was, and an open three was eventually made. And like the Mavs just struggled that over and over again. Their defense is completely better than where it was March 1st. It was the 8th game after the trades, but that is where they have struggled in the past, is trying to catch up to the ball and chase and all that kind of stuff.
It's the personnel, and that's where I'm like banking on it, because the strength of your defense is Gafford and Lively, like those guys being rim protectors. Like, that's a big strength of your defense. And I'm going to make those guys work. I'm going to put those guys to the test. Like, I'm going to put your cardio to the test on top of putting Luka and Kyrie to the test, because we've heard about how well they're guarding, and that's great. They're guarding better. How much of the shot clock are they really going to guard better? That's where, like, Boston has to play fast. I want to see Boston put up 90, 95 shots in this series, because that's where their strength is going to lie. That offense is too damn good. And the Dallas defense is good, but it's not so good that it's going to be able to handle 19 seconds of a shot clock of just ball movement, pressure. I think it's going to crack at some point. And again, I go back to all the Celtics need is for it to crack a few times so they can get those shots off, to hit some threes, to get some easy shots, and make it so the fourth quarter comes around and they're guys with spaghetti legs, and maybe it's Lively or Gafford. Maybe it's not Luka, but maybe it's other guys that are just like gassed, and you can't execute the exact same way. I'm only looking for 5 to 10 plays in the game that go Boston's way because of this. Yeah. And that's where you win.
And I think that's where the Mavs have the benefit of the multiple days off between games. I mean, this series, if it goes 7, John, you and I could be doing shows together for a month. Basically, if it takes that long. But yeah, I think that's where the benefit
3 weeks of these 2 mugs. Whoa.
Basically. Yeah, if you're a Mavs fan or a Celtics fan that listens to each of us during the day, hey, welcome. It starts right now. Let's go. It starts right now. We've got another episode where John will be asking me Mavs questions. That'll come out tomorrow on whatever feed you're listening to this to, on Locked On Celtics on podcast or on YouTube, Locked On Mavs on podcast or on YouTube. Guys, thanks for listening to Locked On Mavs Celtics crossover. Peace out. Boom.